It had been nearly 20 years since I last stepped onto the moss-lined porch of my grandfather's lakeside cabin. The weathered wood still creaked beneath my boots like it remembered me, and the air was thick with that nostalgic scent of pine and lake water. Everything was as I remembered, except quieter. Too quiet. I'd returned to Pine Ridge Lake with one goal, to restore the 5-acre sanctuary that had been in my family since 1947. A place full of memories. A place I thought I still owned outright. But peace? That wasn't in the forecast. The first warning didn't come from a storm or wildlife. It came from the piercing shriek of sirens, wailing through the still air like a banshee scream, slicing the tranquility to pieces. I stepped outside, confused, heart pounding. 2 police cruisers rolled up slowly, tires crunching against gravel like a slow march of judgment. I barely had time to react before the doors swung open and 2 officers emerged, hands hovering near their belts. Then came her. From across the road, a woman in a navy blazer, hair sculpted into a flawless helmet, face locked in fury, jabbed a manicured finger at me like she was ordering a drone strike. "That's him," she shrieked, her voice like vinegar on an open wound. "He's trespassing on association property." I told him to leave, but he refused. I kept my hands visible and my voice calm, despite the ridiculousness of it all. "Officers," I said slowly, "I'm standing on my own land. I've got the deed in my back pocket, if you'll allow me to show you." The lead officer gave a cautious nod. I carefully retrieved the old document, edges frayed, folded 100 times, but authentic. What Blazer Lady didn't realize was that in just under 6 minutes, her entire HOA empire was about to crumble like wet cardboard. But let me rewind. My name is David Hartley. I spent 12 years overseas as a real estate attorney specializing in property disputes and trust litigation. The cabin I stood on. My grandfather built it with his bare hands. It's where I learned to fish, chop wood, and fear ghosts around a fire pit. Nature had done her best to reclaim it while I was gone. Ivy clung to the siding like it wanted to pull the place back into the earth, and the dock had all the structural integrity of a pile of sticks. But it was still ours. What I didn't know was that while I'd been away, an HOA had sprouted around the lake like invasive weeds, wrapping themselves around everything they could grab. Trouble started less than an hour after I arrived. I was clearing branches from the porch when a golf cart, yes, a golf cart, whined up my driveway. At the wheel was a woman who looked like she used the Geneva Convention as a casual suggestion. Her blazer was pressed so sharply it could cut glass, and a shiny gold badge caught the sunlight like a threat. "Excuse me," she barked with military efficiency. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" I stood up, brushing pine needles off my jeans. "Just cleaning up my place. Can I help you?" Her eyes narrowed to slits. "Your place. This cabin sits on HOA-governed land. And I haven't approved any work permits." I blinked. "Work permits? I'm pulling branches off the steps." "This is regulated property," she snapped. "I'm Patricia Peton, president of the Pine Ridge Homeowners Association. Nothing happens here without my sign-off." I forced a polite smile. "Well, Patricia, I'm David Hartley. My grandfather built this cabin. I have the original deed. This place predates your HOA." She practically turned purple. "That's impossible. We've owned lakefront access for years." I gestured toward the rotting dock and knee-high grass. "Really? Looks like no one's touched this place in a decade." That's when she whipped out a clipboard like it was a loaded weapon. "You're in violation of 17 bylaws, unauthorized presence, unapproved alterations, failure to register with the Architectural Committee." I held up a hand. "Slow down. This property existed before your committee ever met in someone's living room. I've got paperwork. Deed. Trust agreements. County registration." She sneered. "You one of those sovereign citizen types? Your little deed doesn't mean anything. Our HOA has full authority since 2013. I took out my phone and showed her a high-res photo of the 1947 deed. Unless you've got a time machine, I'd say I have a stronger claim. She hissed, fraud. You're forging documents. You're a squatter. And then she stomped back to her cart, dialing with fury. Minutes later, I had an audience. Neighbors peeked from their windows, curtains barely twitching. Whispers floated across the air like smoke. Still, I went back to cleaning. I knew this wasn't over. Sure enough, 20 minutes later, Patricia returned like a bad sequel, this time flanked by 3 other HOA board members in matching blazers and smug expressions. Mr. Hartley, she announced like a prosecutor in court, we've called an emergency session. You have 5 minutes to vacate or we're calling the police. I leaned on the porch railing, calm. I've already shown you the deed. But if you'd like, the county records office is still open. One board member, a balding man named Harold, hesitated. Maybe we should double-check. Patricia spun toward him. Harold, he's smirking. He could be dangerous. I wasn't smirking, not yet. But I admit, this was getting bizarre. I looked like I was hosting a barbecue, and they were treating me like a fugitive. Patricia, I said, measured and cool, I'm going inside to make coffee. Call whoever you want. I'm not leaving. That was it. She absolutely lost it. 911. Yes, this is an emergency. There's a man refusing to leave a property he broke into. I sighed, stepped inside, and gathered every document I had. When the sirens returned, I was ready. 2 officers, calm, professional, approached. Patricia ran to them, waving her clipboard like a white flag soaked in hysteria. Officers. Thank goodness. He's dangerous. He's trespassing. He's threatening me. The lead officer, Officer Chen, raised a hand. Sir, keep your hands visible. I did. Officer, I'm the legal owner. I have photo ID and the original deed. He's lying. Patricia screamed. He's a scammer. His documents are fake. Officer Chen took the papers and scanned them in silence. Then she stepped back and murmured into her radio. Minutes ticked by. Then, Mr. Hartley, she said. Your documents appear legitimate. Can you explain the situation? I calmly relayed everything, the history, the trust, the timeline. While I spoke, Patricia paced like a trapped animal. I've run this HOA for 8 years, she snapped. He's not in our records. Do you have proof your HOA owns this land? Officer Chen asked. Patricia lifted her clipboard like it was the Ark of the Covenant. Not on me, but it's in our files. The deed predates your organization, Officer Chen said. Unless you can prove a legal transfer, Mr. Hartley retains rights. Color drained from Patricia's face like a busted dam. Arrest him, she demanded. The second officer stepped forward. Ma'am, filing a false police report is a criminal offense. That was my cue. I dialed. Tom. It's David. Activate the trust clause. And flag it for fraud review. Patricia's rant stopped cold. What are you doing? She stammered. I smiled. Just finishing some paperwork. Then the phone started buzzing. One by one, the board members read the messages aloud. Emergency injunction, cease and desist, Harold's voice trembled. Dissolution of charter, another whispered. Trust clause overrides HOA jurisdiction, I said. 60% of your claimed territory was never legally transferred. You've been collecting dues illegally for years. Patricia's phone rang. She answered. I watched the life drain from her face. What do you mean criminal charges? No, that's not. Harold looked at her. Didn't you use $40,000 for your private pool? That was for community events, she choked. We've never had any, one board member replied. Then a city inspector, summoned by the Real Trust Authority, made a note, possible embezzlement. Ma'am, the officer said, you'll need to come with us. Patricia's legs gave out. You destroyed everything, she whispered. I shook my head. No, Patricia. You did. I just turned on the lights. Word traveled fast. By sunset, HOA signs came down, bylaws burned in backyard fire pits, and laughter echoed across Pine Ridge Lake. Someone even danced while tearing down the approved mailbox color chart. As for Patricia, she faced charges for fraud, embezzlement, and abuse of authority. Her pool was sealed, her career over, her name a warning. And me? I poured a second cup of coffee, sat on my porch, and watched the sun dip behind the lake. Finally, this land was mine again. If watching an out-of-control HOA get obliterated made your day, hit like, and don't forget to subscribe for more epic tales where justice wins and power trips get wrecked.